Breaking right now, the British royal family mired in one of its biggest crises in history.
I thought it was manipulation. I thought that it showed, firstly, Harry absolutely desperate.
Prince William doubles down. According to multiple sources, it's now a matter of when, not if, he strips Prince Harry and Meghan Markle of their royal titles.
It was a very aggressive PR for the Sussexes. Got way beyond herself because she really doesn't understand the British royal family or Britain, but understands how to project her clients. So he is at a loss, and that brings us obviously to the Angola thing, which is really a stunt. It's a pathetic stunt. You've got to look at the way that Harry has actually been badly advised, because after he lost that case in London against the British government to get armed protection.
Tom Bower, the legendary royal author, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle.
You know, he wanted his privacy. The problem you've got here in a relationship with Meghan and Harry is this is a boy that, you know, was pretty much traumatized by media presence when he was little. He didn't really want any of this publicity. He was always attacking photographers. She's someone, ever since she was on the red carpet, who's craved publicity. So this is a relationship based on one that wants to be out of the public light, doesn't want his children involved, and that's why we see keep them get the back of their heads, and one that's desperate to utilize that.
And utilize the children.
Americans are furious right now, and not just a little annoyed, but genuinely fired up. While millions of people were simply going about their normal day, working, commuting, scrolling through their phones, something else was unfolding quietly in the background. Behind closed doors, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle were reportedly moving forward with a plan that many people say reaches straight into American life, American identity, and even the future image of two children the public has barely ever seen. For a lot of Americans, the feeling is simple. Why is this suddenly part of their story?
This was surrounded by controversy, largely to the unconventional decisions Prince Harry and Meghan Markle made regarding privacy, timing, and public communication. But the problem is that this ended up causing a lot more friction and a lot more issues that unfolded as the years went on. And now it's really hard for Harry and Meghan to get away from them without doing some sort of Hail Mary.
And today we're digging into it. Royal author and investigative heavyweight Tom Bower has stepped forward with claims about what he believes this plan actually looks like behind the scenes. According to him, it's not just another celebrity move or a simple publicity play. He argues it's something bigger, something carefully calculated, and he says the cracks are already starting to show. Across the country, more and more people are reacting with the same blunt response: "We did not sign up for this." So stay right here, because by the end of this video, you'll clearly see what critics believe Harry and Meghan are trying to set in motion, why some say the strategy is already stumbling, and why this story is suddenly sparking heated reactions all across America.
Even though, as I said before, like Harry and Meghan not following exact protocol kind of makes sense, you know? Harry and Meghan's children are unlikely to ever get anywhere close to becoming, you know, first, second in the line of succession.
Tom Bower does not hold back when he talks about this situation. In his view, the whole idea looks desperate, unrealistic, and completely disconnected from how most Americans see things. And according to him, the reaction across the United States has been loud and clear. Many people are simply not buying into it. They are pushing back hard and asking the same question again and again. Why should this suddenly matter to them? So let's begin with something that really made people pause. Meghan Markle and Prince Harry reportedly registered website domains connected to their children, Archie and Lilibet. Individual URLs tied to their names. Think about that for a moment. These are children who are still in primary school, yet their names are already tied to online platforms waiting quietly in the background.
something has to be done to preserve the future of the monarchy, because Harry and Andrew are both massive risks, and it's a risk that needs to be assessed very quickly here. And I think definitely there could be a route forwards where their titles are stripped, and I think that's the only way to go. And I think the future in some ways can only be secured if they go in that direction. And so this will be a very bold move. It'll be one that definitely damages his relationship with his brother. I don't think there's much of a relationship between William and Andrew, but I think Harry and Meghan should be shaking in their boots right now if they are not already. And they could have had the best of all worlds if they had played their cards right. But this was a route Harry and Meghan decided to go down where they trashed their family, and this is the result.
Now, at first glance, you might shrug and say, so what? Plenty of parents secure a website or social media handle for their kids. Sure, that happens. But here's where critics say things start to look very different. Most parents are not living in a $15 million mansion in Montecito, California, while also navigating global fame, royal titles, and intense media attention. And most parents are not simultaneously stepping away from Britain and the royal institution while still pushing for their children to carry the titles of prince and princess.
Harry and mostly Meghan, it seems, are actually really obsessed with the titles. Meghan and Harry care a lot about those titles, and they say that they don't, but they clearly do. So what do you think about this whole thing? A lot of people think the birth certificate not having signatures and being changed, altered.
Prince and princess of what exactly? That question is the one Tom Bower emphasized when I spoke with him, because these children are growing up in America, thousands of miles from the United Kingdom, the royal household, and the traditions those titles were originally tied to. They are being raised far from the palace system that gives those titles meaning in the first place. And critics say Meghan understands that dynamic very well.
Because I don't think she's going to let the king be trapped into an argument with Harry.
You're right about that, yeah.
And he'd have to fly to Balmoral to see the...
Absolutely.
But I think it isn't just the trust, you know. I mean, Harry has made a fortune, and still does, from Spare and the Netflix series.
Absolutely.
And he said such terrible things about William and Kate and Camilla. I mean, he didn't say that. I mean, and there is another book there.
Mm-hmm.
There are another 400,000
Remember he said,
words.
how many pages did he tell the Telegraph he removed from the original
400.
book because he
Have a
didn't.
few more.
So there's another book there with
Yeah.
with a lot of...
And Meghan told us she found her diary at Frogmore and she
I
never
hear
signed an
you,
NDA.
I hear you, but I'm just, all I'm saying as a father, if you are going through what he's going through.
Tom Bower, who has spent years digging into the Sussex operation, told me he believes none of this is random. In his view, it looks carefully planned over the long term. One example he pointed to involves something Meghan herself has spoken about: writing regular diary-style messages to her children. According to reports, she records moments of their lives and sends them as emails, creating a detailed digital archive of memories meant for them to read later.
And we can see it already, I think, the struggles and the tensions between, how do they move forward digitally in these sorts of things? Because I feel like we're seeing a slow adoption of, let's say, some video and social media and these sorts of things. And so the monarchy is very much, I think, struggling to modernize in some way here more than some of its other counterparts.
Think about that for a moment. What we're talking about here is not simply a mother scribbling private thoughts in a journal at the end of the day. Critics see something much bigger taking shape. They say this looks more like the careful construction of an archive, a growing collection of stories, memories, and digital records that could one day turn into something larger, a future book, a future media project, maybe even a long-term brand built around two children who carry royal titles while growing up entirely in America. Because the idea being discussed is bold. Two kids with British royal titles, raised with an American lifestyle, eventually positioned as some kind of symbolic link between the monarchy and the United States. The phrase some critics throw around is dramatic but clear: America's prince and princess.
It just seemed so silly for her to go, well, I just want to know if he's nice. Well, you don't, he's a prince. You don't want to know how that could benefit you, that he's a prince? It just kind of was just a little ridiculous for her to say that. And people, again, there was just kind of this
lack of trust, you go back to the wedding as well.
But when that idea came up during our discussion, the response from Americans online was immediate and blunt. One comment alone racked up more than 2,400 likes, and it said exactly this: "Nobody here views Harry's kids as American royalty." Nobody.
I do think the Sussex overdrive is unbelievable, but I don't think that he is going to get back in. I think that there are two reasons. One is I think that William wouldn't allow it, and secondly, the moment he got back to America, he immediately promoted Disney and his trip to Disney World, which showed that he is very commercially minded, which we'll get into later on, which makes it impossible for him. And of course, Meghan wouldn't come back to Britain.
So how on earth did this situation even begin? How does a former actress from Suits and the royal family's so-called spare end up at the center of talk about creating what some critics describe as an American royal dynasty? Tom Bower believes the answer traces back years, all the way to a meeting in a London restaurant called the Wolseley. In his best-selling book, Revenge, he lays out the early moments that he believes set everything in motion. And if you have not read it yet, many royal watchers say the same thing. It is essential reading for understanding how this story unfolded.
Interview with Meghan Markle, but she remains a friend of Fergie. Certainly no friend of the British royal family, so she's a risk. But when it comes to a 10 million advance for a book from someone who's already written more than one autobiography, she is going to have to spill the beans, Angela. And that's where the fear from the British royal family comes from.
Tom Bower describes a moment that, in his view, revealed everything about Meghan Markle's mindset right from the start. According to his account, Meghan was sitting in London with her PR advisor during the early days before her relationship with Prince Harry became public. In the middle of their conversation, Meghan casually mentioned that she had an upcoming date with Harry. Her PR advisor reportedly paused and asked a serious question.
My understanding is that there are members of the family who are very aware of the fact that the marriage is problematic. I don't want to say more than that, I don't think. Has he been disloyal and bleated about her to anybody? I wouldn't have put it quite like that, but he does and also the family is not in close touch with him now. Even those members of the family who were closer to him are less in touch with him now than they used to be. And many of them will have nothing to do with him whatsoever.
And Meghan's response, as Bower recounts it, was calm, confident, and extremely calculated. She replied, "I've Googled him. I've researched him. I know exactly what I am doing." That line stuck with Bower for a reason, because in his interpretation, it shows that nothing about the situation was accidental or spontaneous. From the very beginning, he believes Meghan approached the relationship with a clear understanding of the attention, influence, and opportunity that came with it. In his words, she knew exactly what she was doing then, and he believes she still knows exactly what she is doing now.
He preaches a lot about forgiveness. We heard him talk about open borders. Sometimes he's very kumbaya, and I wonder if he's trying to put his money where his mouth is by making peace with his son, because how can we take him seriously when he's meeting with Ukraine and Trump and trying to make peace as a global leader when he's not even at peace with his son?
Well, I think I disagree with you about that, because Charles, when he was the Prince of Wales, was absolutely unforgiving to anyone who said no to him.
Oh.
And in my book on the king, the rebel king it's called, my best sources were people who'd worked for him, and he'd been absolutely ruthless when he fired them.
Oh.
He had absolutely no time for anyone who said no to him. So he's a man who hates confrontation.
One thing Tom Bower argues strongly is that Meghan Markle has always been playing a very long game. Moves that might look chaotic on the surface may actually be attempts to keep momentum alive while searching for a bigger breakthrough.
take the constant changes around her lifestyle ventures, from the launch of American Riviera Orchard to the rebranding into As Ever, along with product drops that seem to sell out instantly yet rarely appear widely available in stores.
According to his reporting, the real struggle behind the scenes may be finding serious financial backing. In other words, the issue may not simply be poor planning or bad public relations. His claim is that major investors with deep pockets have not stepped forward to fund the Sussex brand at a large scale. That, he argues, is the real pressure building behind the scenes. So what does that mean in practical terms? Critics say it can create a cycle where products are launched before the full business structure exists to support them. Small batches appear, sell quickly, and generate headlines, all while signaling potential demand to investors who might be watching from the sidelines. In that context, skeptics argue that releasing a limited number of items, whether it's jars of jam, lifestyle goods, or specialty products, can function less like a full retail operation and more like a demonstration of market interest, almost like a pitch deck brought to life. And while Meghan continues presenting new ideas tied to her lifestyle brand, observers say Prince Harry appears to be navigating a very different kind of pressure of his own. According to some commentators, the situation around him is beginning to look increasingly tense and possibly even desperate. Tom Bauer did not hesitate when he spoke about this part of the story. In his view, Prince Harry is facing a reality that is becoming harder and harder to ignore. Harry is watching his father, King Charles, publicly battling cancer, and that situation forces a difficult truth into focus. At some point, the line of succession will move forward, and when that moment comes, Prince William will become king. That is where the tension really begins to build, because Harry understands that once William sits on the throne, the balance of power inside the royal institution changes completely. The future king would hold enormous influence over how royal matters unfold in Britain. Critics say that realization is weighing heavily on Harry right now, and it is forcing him to think carefully about where he stands and what his future relationship with Britain might look like. According to Bauer, this pressure has created a sense of urgency behind the scenes. Reports surfaced about private meetings between Sussex aides and palace communication staff, meetings that were conveniently photographed outside a London members club and quickly appeared across headlines in the Daily Mail. Bauer's reaction to those images was blunt. He described the whole situation as what he called confection manipulation, essentially a carefully staged PR moment that ended up backfiring. Instead of projecting confidence or control, the pictures gave critics the opposite impression. To them, it looked less like strength and more like a team scrambling to regain influence. Bauer also pointed directly at the Sussex communication strategy. He argued that their PR advisor, Meredith Maines, may understand how publicity works in Los Angeles, where attention and buzz often drive the narrative. But Britain, he said, operates differently. In London's media culture, that kind of strategic leak can send the wrong signal. Instead of making someone appear powerful or in control, it can make them look exposed, even vulnerable. And in the royal world, that perception can matter more than almost anything else. Now, let's talk about the children, because this is the point where reactions from Americans are getting the loudest and the most intense. The names at the center of the conversation are Archie and Lilibet Mountbatten-Windsor. They officially hold the titles of Prince and Princess, titles that became theirs under the rules of the royal system during King Charles's reign. And according to royal watchers, Harry and Meghan have made it very clear they want those titles to remain firmly attached to their children. What makes the situation unusual for critics is the distance involved. These children are growing up thousands of miles away from Britain, roughly 5,000 miles from the monarchy and the traditions those titles originally come from. Yet, the titles remain part of their identity as the Sussex family continues building their lives in California. Here is where some Americans say the situation becomes confusing and even frustrating. Public images of these children are extremely rare. Most people have barely seen their faces at all. Supporters say that is simply parents protecting their kids' privacy, but critics argue the messaging feels mixed. On one hand, there are strong statements about wanting a quiet, normal childhood. On the other hand, reports say website domains have been secured in the children's names, and conversations continue about their potential public roles in the future.
At the same time, Meghan has spoken about keeping written memories and messages for her children, nightly reflections that document moments from their lives. Some observers see that as a touching personal archive, while others interpret it as something that could one day become a public story. Either way, it has added another layer to the debate. And then there is another topic that often surfaces in online royal watching communities on both sides of the Atlantic: the surrogacy question. This subject requires real care because it involves children and deeply personal matters. Still, the discussion continues in certain corners of the internet, whether major news outlets choose to cover it or not. That ongoing speculation is part of the wider storm surrounding the Sussex story right now. Reports and online discussions among royal watchers have pointed to what some describe as inconsistencies in the timeline and public details surrounding the pregnancies connected to Archie and Lilibet. Over time, various commentators and observers have raised questions about how events unfolded publicly. Even Meghan's half-sister and her father, Thomas Markle, have voiced their own doubts in interviews and media appearances. Now, it is important to be careful here because these conversations involve children and deeply personal family matters. But the reason this discussion keeps coming up, especially in the context of today's topic, is because the Sussex story is not just about private family life. For critics and supporters alike, it has become tied to a much larger public narrative about identity, image, and influence. If Harry and Meghan are indeed positioning their family as a kind of modern alternative to the traditional royal structure, a glamorous California-based version of royal life in Montecito, then questions about their family story naturally become part of the public debate. Supporters see the Sussexes as creating a fresh chapter, a modern approach to public life, far removed from the rigid traditions of the British establishment. Critics, on the other hand, argue that the entire brand surrounding the couple is built heavily around their family image. Because when people talk about the Sussex brand, they're often talking about the family itself. The story revolves around the couple, their children, and the idea of a new kind of royal narrative, one shaped by diversity, independence, and American cultural influence, rather than centuries of palace tradition. Tom Bowers summed up the future dynamic in a way that many royal commentators found striking. He pointed out that Archie and Lilibet are growing up as first cousins to Prince George, Princess Charlotte, and Prince Louis. And in the years ahead, those cousins may naturally be compared in the public imagination. On one side, the next generation of royals growing up in Windsor under the traditional structure of the monarchy. On the other, two children growing up in Montecito, California, far from the palace world their cousins are part of. Britain versus America, Windsor versus Montecito, two very different royal stories unfolding at the same time. And critics say Meghan is already shaping that narrative and quietly planting the first seeds of it. Those nightly diary-style emails she reportedly writes to her children are not seen by everyone as simple keepsakes. Some observers believe they could eventually form the first chapter of a much larger story, a story that might one day be told by two young adults who grew up hearing that they carried royal titles, that they were different, that they were part of something bigger than ordinary life. In that imagined future, the story would position them as something unique, children raised far from the palace system but still tied to royal identity. Some commentators frame it dramatically: two young Americans who could be presented as a modern counterpart to the Windsor children. But when that idea surfaced online, many Americans pushed back immediately.
One YouTube comment alone gathered more than 2,400 likes and summed up the reaction in blunt terms. "We fought a war so we would never have to bow to a royal family. We are not about to start now." That response captures a feeling that appears again and again in discussions across social media, that the United States has a long history built around rejecting inherited titles and aristocratic status. For those people, the thought of an American aristocracy connected to royal branding simply does not sit well at all.
So where does this leave the British royal family in all of this? According to Tom Bower, the situation carries real long-term risk. And when Bower raises concerns, many royal observers pay attention because he has spent decades investigating powerful figures and writing best-selling exposés. This is a man who has published more than 24 books examining influential people, and he is not known for worrying lightly. His concern is fairly simple but serious. No matter what Prince Harry says publicly about the royal family, whether critics agree with it or not, some people will always believe his version of events. That creates a lasting vulnerability for the palace because it is difficult to fully counter personal accounts once they are out in the public arena. There are also rumors that the story may not be finished yet. Reports suggest Harry removed roughly 400 pages from Spare before the book was published. 400 pages of material that never made it into the final version. Combined with Meghan's personal writings and the couple's Netflix projects, many commentators believe there could still be more chapters of this saga waiting to appear. And that leads to the big question hanging over everything right now. What happens next when two people who have repeatedly turned their royal connections into major media deals decide to speak again? Critics say Harry and Meghan have shown many times that they're willing to tell their story publicly through interviews, documentaries, books, and streaming platforms. And each time it sends another shockwave through the royal world. Tom Bower was very direct when I asked him about Harry's mindset. In his view, Harry does not believe he has anything to apologize for. In fact, Bower says Harry still feels the opposite, that he is the one owed an apology from King Charles, an apology from Prince William, not just for the way Harry believes he was treated, but also for how Meghan was treated once she entered the royal family. But when the subject turns to reconciliation, Bower's outlook is blunt. In his words, a real reconciliation between Harry and William is simply not on the cards right now. Too much has happened. Too many accusations, too many public revelations, and too many deeply personal moments exposed to the world. Bower points to several key flashpoints that widened the divide: the memoir Spare, the Netflix documentary series, the explosive interview with Oprah, and the racism allegations that sparked global controversy. According to Bower, those claims caused significant reputational damage to the monarchy in different parts of the world, particularly across Africa and Asia. In his view, the fallout from those moments may be impossible to fully undo. He believes Prince William is unlikely to move past it easily. Camilla, he says, is also unlikely to forget the accusations that were made publicly. Even King Charles, who some observers see as the most emotionally open to repairing the relationship, is reportedly under strong advice from senior figures around him to be cautious about any attempt at reconciliation. And that leads to another development that has royal watchers paying attention: Tom Bower's next book. His bestseller Revenge was only the beginning of his investigation. Bower has made it clear that more reporting is on the way. According to him, the Sussex story did not end when that book came out in 2022. It kept evolving, and as he sees it, the stakes surrounding the royal family have only grown higher since then. Or Meghan's jam business, because according to critics watching this situation unfold, the bigger issue being debated right now goes far beyond lifestyle products or celebrity branding. What some commentators believe is truly at stake is the future stability and public trust surrounding the House of Windsor itself. So this is where the story lands today. Harry and Meghan appear to have a vision for their children, a long-term strategy that critics say could position Archie and Lilibet as part of a new public narrative built far away from the traditional royal structure. A narrative centered in California, shaped by American media culture and framed as something modern and different from the palace system in Britain. Tom Bauer believes he has exposed parts of that strategy, and the reaction from many Americans online has been loud and unmistakable. Across comment sections and social media discussions, the message keeps repeating in slightly different ways, but with the same tone. We did not sign up for an American royal family. For many people in the United States, the country's identity was built on rejecting inherited titles and aristocratic systems, and they argue that no amount of jam launches, flower sprinkles, Netflix deals, or carefully documented family memories is going to change that feeling anytime soon. Tom Bauer has made his case. The public conversation is heating up, and the debate around Harry, Meghan, and the future of their family story is clearly far from finished. If you found this breakdown interesting, make sure you like the video, share it with someone who follows royal news, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss what happens next. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I read them all. I'll see you in the next one.